One day, a internal security researcher was casually inserting his CD into his PC to, of course, listen to some audio when he noticed something odd. And no, I am not exaggerating this. He literally saw some weird, conspicuous looking application trying to play a round of hide and seek with Microsoft's anti spyware. Yeah, I don't know how he managed to stay there glued to his computer screen, but I would have booked it. Probably. Anyways, it turned out that the CD had installed a malware which illegally sent users' data to surprise our beloved PlayStation maker Sony. While this may seem pretty normal big tech corporation shady behavior, it's important to keep in mind that this was the 2000s. You know, when we had to deal with these atrocities? Man, the 2000 was a really weird time to live. But never mind the 2000s. You click this video in order to find out how Sony spied on you acting like a complete clown on MySpace. Allegedly, that is, because it was proven that they could potentially track online activity, but it was never confirmed if they actually did.
Are you on MySpace acting like an idiot for the hundredth time?
Sony, but how? I have antivirus on my PC.
If you want to find out, you better watch this video, or else.
During the early chaotic years of the 21st century, Sony Music Entertainment, we'll call them SME for short, since it's a mouthful to say their full name, was under a lot of stress from Napster. Napster was wrecking their entire business model with their service, which entailed giving away licensed music CDs for free, which didn't make them very popular with the recording industry, who are obviously very pissed off with Napster. But this begs the question, how was Napster doing this? See, Napster was a file sharing service that allowed users to share their MP3 files to virtually anyone on the web. And you might wonder what this has to do with Sony potentially knowing your terrible taste for web design. But trust me, it has everything to do with it. Napster didn't only share digital MP3 files that users had made, but also MP3 files from licensed music CDs, which was causing lots of problems for the RIAA. And if you're like me and don't know what the RIAA is, it simply represents the music recording industry in the US. Anyways, Napster was eating away at the bottom line of the RIAA, which SME so happened to be a part of. So the other giants in the industry assembled in their united hatred for Napster. Meanwhile, at a conference at Long Beach, California, Sony Picture Entertainment's VP said, and I quote,
Sony is going to take aggressive steps to stop this. We will develop technology that transcends the individual user. We will firewall Napster at the source. We will block out your cable company. We will block out your phone company. We will block out your internet service provider. We will firewall it at your PC.
I've got to admit, that was one hell of a speech. Like, if I would have given Sony the Nobel Prize, I would have. No, it's the reverse, my bad. Wait. Like, if I was in charge of giving the Nobel Prize, I would have given it to Sony. That's what I meant to say. But too bad that Sony later tried to downplay the speech as inaccurate and out of context. In the meantime, the RIAA and Napster were dueling it out in court. Napster tried to discreetly make a break for it, but Maureen Hall Patel, the judge, wasn't having it. Napster was forced to pay $26 million for their actions,
Hello there.
which they later filed for bankruptcy in 2002. Now, with that out of the way, Sony only had one problem left to deal with: the annoying trolls that kept copying their CDs. You see, even though copying CDs began in the 90s, The recording industry hadn't placed an effective countermeasure to it, presumably being too lazy to adapt to the internet. See Blockbuster for reference. Well, in 2002, the recording industry decided it was time to put an end to the CD trolls, so they inserted a bunch of lines of code into their CD, which prevented the average Joe Schmo from getting a decent copy of the original. Sony went even further and said that their CDs won't work on PC or Mac. This effectively put an end to the CD trolls. At least for now, that is. You see, some random Joe Schmo found out that if you scribble with a marker on a gap present on the CD, then it would play on the computer. Honestly, this is somewhat funny. Like, what were they doing when they were making these CDs? Like, playing Mario Kart or something? Alright, Mario, that's enough. I need to explain how the anti piracy code worked. The way it worked was simple. When someone inserted a CPCD into their PC and tried to transfer the files to their hard drive, the no copy technology would add distortion to the audio file, preventing the average Joe Schmo from getting a decent copy. Which I have to admit was quite an impressive feat at the time. The same cannot be said for their CD's physique. While all of this was going on, a congressman by the name of Rick Boucher was observing the situation with great concern, presumably from the House of Chamber like most congressmen do. Rick wasn't alright with the drastic measures the recording industry was taking, so he alleged that companies within the industry were, and I quote, seeking to use their copyright not just to obtain fair compensation, but in effect, to exercise complete dominance and total control of the copyrighted work. He also went on to say, I have told the heads of the major labels I think this is a major mistake that will engender a major public backlash. This got the attention of a big shot from the RIAA, who wrote a reply to Rick, amounting to basically, this ain't charity and we gotta fight fire with fire, as his letter would imply. As for the people who were listening to the CDs on their PCs, they were forced to listen to some terrible audio that will probably get you mad enough to rage quit listening to CDs on computers, possibly forever. Now, remember our boy Rick, right? Turns out that response didn't really satisfy him, so 4 months after his initial complaint, he doubled down and somehow convinced the CTA, the Consumer Technology Association, to back him up. Like, I don't know how he managed to do this, but he did. And to keep it simple, since you and me, I didn't know what the CTA was before I made this video, and you probably don't know. But to keep it simple, the CTA are a big deal. Like, they're responsible for like big achievements in AI, color TVs, computers, and this list goes on. But even with the help of the CTA, they somehow failed to achieve their goal, and I don't know how this even happened, but they just did. Anyways, the CT and Rick took the L, and the RIAA won, but they did fail to completely stop the CD trolls, so Sony, tired of this, decided to use any means necessary to put an end to this fiasco. 2005 rolled in, and a guy by the name of Mark Rosanovich pulled up and found something disturbing on his computer after inserting a Sony CD. A rootkit. And you might be asking what a rootkit is, and it's like having a random kid take over your home and set up a bunch of booby traps all over it. The kid is the rootkit, you're the PC, and the brick is the malware. The rootkit runs the malware in the PC, causing it vulnerabilities, which is the equivalent of you getting hit by a rock thrown by a random kid. Sony denied that the rootkit was harmful, while also offering a code to remove the rootkit. Like, I don't know if this is a clear admission of guilt. Like, what were they thinking? This has to be a clear admission of guilt. Like, I don't know what they were thinking. Maybe they just lost a majority of their brain cells to the CD trolls. But the court wasn't having it. Sony was found guilty of evasion of privacy, security vulnerabilities, copyright infringement, and deceptive practices.
Hammer of justice, get him.
No, please, no. Have mercy on me, Judge.
Do you think you can escape
No,
justice,
please,
Han
no.
Sony?
Oh yeah. Did I forget to tell you? I'm immune to hammers.
Ow! What? No, that wasn't my intention. Pay only $7.25 million?
Oh, yeah. Judge, you've got yourself a deal.
As the Hammer of Justice was coming for Sony, it somehow failed to hit Sony, and Sony only had to pay $7.25 million. Like, I'm in complete disbelief. How did this happen? Did they somehow plant a rootkit into the feds or someone? Because they basically got away with it. Over 500,000 computers are affected, including thousands of US military and defense computers. The rootkit made it easier for hackers to hack your PC, or just anyone's PC for that matter, and made it extremely slow to use. Well, that is it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, then subscribe and see you soon.